throughout our work, we say thank you. And we would also like to appeal to any other organizations out there, even individuals, to kindly come together with us, support us as we support in the domestic work.
The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has disturbed the political, social, economic, religious, and financial structures across the globe. In Kenya, the informal sector employs nearly 50 million people a year. Domestic workers account for at least 2 million of these individuals, yet very few have benefits or safety regulations.
Hakuna jobs kitu ya kwanza, and mali unapata job, unapata mdosi hataki kuassociate na wewe sana, so most of the employers wanakutupia nguo kwa dirisha, wengine mpaka ndo wanakutupia kwa dirisha, and hakuna negotiation kitu ya kwanza, because sasa ile mtu anakutupia nguo anakulipa vile anataka, juu anajua sasa yuko in need of money, na pia life ni hard sasa time ya coronavirus.
Unrelenting in its spread, the pandemic has rendered many of them jobless as employers seek to protect themselves and their families.
If you are working in a house as a domestic worker, you are being isolated due to this COVID-19. You cannot relate with the family members in that house freely as we used to relate with them.
In this COVID season, we know that it is so challenging for our domestic workers to get jobs, because personally, as a placement officer, I can count the number of placements I've done since COVID started, because everybody is shying out from bringing in somebody into their homes.
While the COVID-19 infection numbers continue to rise, it is evident that women will suffer the most in vulnerable segments such as domestic cleaning.
Kutoka corona itangazwe, hata landlord anakuja anatuambia kwa nyumba, kwa nini hamulipi nyumba? Hatuna pesa. Hapa ndio tunapataka kitu yetu ya siku. Tukipata 500, tukipata 1000, hapa ndio tunasomeshia watoto wetu.
These workers are facing many unforeseen challenges that continue to plague their very existence.
Kwa tunaenda kibarua na pia tuko na kampani ndio tunafanya. Ndio kibarua na ilikuwa na support kwa biashara kidogo. Sasa hivi ni kibarua tunaisha unapata biashara yao.
We watch helplessly as this pandemic continues to rear its ugly head. The needs of domestic workers have become even more acute. Meeting these needs is key to safeguarding both their well-being today and future potential. That is why the Center for Domestic Training and Development has decided to step in and bring some relief to these ladies during these challenging times.
So what we are doing as an organization to give them some support, started by forming our subgroup, which we do a daily check-up on them. We are communicating with them. We are also discussing information that they might need concerning COVID, how to prevent, the measures to take. And it's also, it works kind of as women, because we are all women there. So we find that if you have an issue or an issue, you can talk it out there, and then fellow women will help you cope with the situation. We also offering the masks to them. For starting, we produced 3,000 masks. And all these masks are going to the domestic workers.
The center has been able to extend its support to these ladies through the generosity of its donors.
There have been combination of efforts in coming to make this mask, because we couldn't do it alone. We have these girls who were sponsored by One World Children's Fund to do their training course. These girls are the ones who have used their skills to make these masks for us.
The fabric masks, which are of very high quality, have 3 layers inclusive of a pocket for a filter.
We really thank the OWCF for the support they have given us for supporting our girls to go through that training, because that one has really impacted us in making this month. The other people I think we want to thank is the Sukuma Twende Trust. They have been of big help in this process, because they donated to us some of the machines which the girls have been using to produce the masks. The other organization that I really want to thank is the Global Fund Movement, who say thank you so much for working with us this journey. The Domestic Workers Transformation Program has been in existence because of you.
This project has seen many women get empowered and transform their lives. The initiative has enabled the center to establish 10 hubs in lower income areas that allow these women to access free home care training. The women in the hubs have also been equipped with masks and are now able to minimize the risk of infection.
It's been a long journey, 2 years, of mentoring the young leaders, and we know and we also believe that even as the project is coming to an end, the leaders are well empowered and they will continue doing their good job in mentoring the other women in the house and just pass on the knowledge that they have gained through this program. We say so, thank you so much, and we really are blessed to have you in front of us.
Finally, the Center for Domestic Training and Development has extended its support to the women who do laundry in Nairobi Estate, commonly referred to as Mama Boys. These are the ladies who sit by the roadside searching for daily domestic cleaning jobs. Their jobs have now been rendered scarce due to the ongoing pandemic.
Kwanzia mwezi wa tatu mpaka wa leo sijawahi fanya kazi na naishi kwa nyumba ya mtu. Nataka pesa. Wengi wenye wako hapa ni masingo mada, wengine wa bwana ni mawido, wa bwana walikufa. Sasa nyoni pangu kulitokeza watusaidie, tunaomba hilo. Asanteni sana. On behalf of all the leaders, we would like to thank the Center for Domestic Training and Development for the provision of the masks. It has been a challenge to purchase those masks since we have no job opportunities for now. The little we get is only to sustain our kids and other basic needs in our houses. Thank you so much.
I advise to my fellow domestic workers and kindly ask them to always wear their masks, sanitize
everyone,
and go out from their houses as they go to look out for jobs.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
During this season,
We are ready to start. Carol, could you kindly stop the video? Thank you. I'm Phoebe from CDTD. Some of us know me, some do not. And maybe before I go on with the introductions, Carol is going to start the meeting with a word of prayer. So Caroline Gathure, please pray for us.
Okay, let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for this day that you brought unto us. Thank you for being our guider. Thank you for being our protector, O Lord. Now, as we begin this meeting, may you guide us, may you protect us, and help that everything that we're going to learn, it will be of help unto us, O Lord. I pray that believing and trusting in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Carol. So again, as I've just said, I'm the moderator of the meeting today. My name is Phoebe. I work with the Center for Domestic Training and Development as a programs coordinator. And as we start, I know we have panelists, 4 of them, but before we start to that level, I would like us to know each other. So welcome to this webinar or Zoom meeting about mental impact of COVID-19 on domestic workers and their support systems. As we start, if you don't mind, I know we are quite a number. If you could just introduce yourself shortly, just a second or a minute of I am who, just shortly as we start, we really appreciate. Maybe the CDTD team could start. Just a second of this and that, so that we know each other.
Hello, everyone. My name is Morogo, and I work with the Center for Domestic Training and Development as a founder and executive director. And I'm excited to be in the meeting today.
Hi, Irene, we can see you.
Oh, hi everyone. And I work for the Center for Domestic Training and Development as a project officer. I'm excited, like super excited for this meeting.
Thank you. Joyce, I can see you. Introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. I'm Joyce Mikali, Mkurunyayo Hub Leader and a Young Women Leader. I'm excited to be here today.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Mary. You're in a dark place.
I'm Mary. I'm Mary, Center for Domestic Training, Assistant Field Officer.
Welcome, Mary.
Thank you.
Well, I'm of the opinion that maybe we. Oh, Pierina is here. Pierina, say hi.
Hi, Phoebe.
Hi, Pierina.
Everyone, I'm glad to be here. I am Pierina Guantai. I'm a friend of CDTD and a program associate. Maybe I should open my camera and just wave. Thank you.
Thank you too. I know we're also running short of time, so I want to believe that we all, well, we may not know each other, but I will allow the rest of us to eventually, hopefully, be another Zoom meeting with us. Feel free at some point, especially the feedback point, to maybe introduce yourself, maybe say something. There is no problem. But in the meantime, I would like for us to just start because of time. Knowing that we also have quite some number of things to discuss today. The first part of today's Zoom is for the introductory part of who CDTD is, the Center for Domestic Training and Development, from the founder, and also how we've been working with domestic workers for the past quite some time. We've worked with domestic workers for 2 decades now, and Edith Murogo, our beloved CEO, is going to be the first panelist to talk more about CDTD and our work with domestic workers. So Edith, welcome.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. It's a pleasure to be in this Zoom and to talk about my pet subject, which is domestic workers and the work that they do and the contribution that they make to the national economy. So thank you very, very, very much. So CDTD is a non-governmental organization that works with domestic workers, both adults and children, and all genders. We work with adult domestic workers and also the child domestic workers. As you know, we have a lot of children working in the sector, and they are also part of CDTD's concern. So we work with both adults and young people. So as far as working with domestic workers is concerned, we started working in 2001, and we ran a very comprehensive program that targets domestic workers to give them skills. That is the first thing that we do. We give them skills in home care management. And home care management, we have areas like housekeeping, we have laundry work, we have cooking or catering. We also have home nursing, and also I hope I had not said the childcare, because it's also a big part of our training. So there is a whole thing about making sure that domestic workers are properly skilled for the kind of services that they provide or they're expected to provide in their homes. The other service that we offer to domestic workers is employment services. CDTD has been running and continues to run a very vibrant employment service for domestic workers and have been properly trained and are ready to work in the households. We place in Nairobi and other counties and other towns. We also place across the region. We have domestic workers who have been trained under CDTD who are working in Tanzania, Uganda, and other parts of the East African community. We have also found that domestic workers who have successfully trained under CDTD have gone on actually to even get work in Europe, in the US, and in many parts of the world. So the employment component is highly successful and is one of the signature programs that CDTD runs under the Domestic Workers Transformation Project. Thirdly, we provide referral services to domestic workers. You find that as domestic workers are working, they need legal aid. Sometimes they may need legal support. They may need to link up with the unions, especially when they have cases. We provide counseling services. We also provide referrals to medical service providers and any other referrals that they may need during the time that they're in the program with us, and even sometimes even post the program time. We make sure that our domestic workers or the domestic workers in our program are properly supported, not just with the training, but also with other areas. Thirdly, we support domestic workers by giving them advice. You find that during the time that they are working, they need a lot of support. They need to be answered. They need to ask questions. They need somebody who is knowledgeable about certain things. So the domestic workers link up with our team, and they always get the proper support that they need. Actually, currently, we even have mentors within our program. We have 10 young women who we have trained, and they're also really helping us in this role of supporting other domestic workers. Fourthly, we offer mentorship and leadership programs for domestic workers. So like at the moment, we have a program that has been running for 2 years. And under this program, we have been creating mentors and leaders for domestic workers so that we can make sure that they themselves can lead. They don't have to be led. They can lead themselves. They can mobilize themselves. They can support one another. So this is the whole idea of the mentorship and the leadership program. You realize that in Kenya, domestic workers are still not being seen and being heard. And that is why we are making sure that we run this program so that they are properly mentored and they have the leadership skills and they have leaders who can actually stand at the front and the others can follow. And that way we will create a very vibrant movement that can help to liberate domestic workers in this country, because they do need to come together and they need to harness their voice. They need to have a very, very powerful voice so they can be able to counter any abuse that may come their way. So mobilizing domestic workers for collective action is one of the key responsibilities of CDTD. So in a nutshell, I think those are the services that we offer domestic workers, and here in the meeting, so we should be able to discuss those. I don't know, Phoebe, if you'd like me to go to the next part of what I'm supposed to be talking about now, or maybe I can come back later and talk about it. Sorry, I can't hear you.
I am saying it's okay. You can go to the next part before Cliff comes in, kindly.
Okay. So I was asked to discuss the role of domestic workers in our homes. And I can begin by summarizing that domestic workers are everything in our homes. They do most of the work that has to be done in our homes. They go beyond the call of duty to ensure that households are properly supported. Other than that, I want to just break it down for you as I understand it. So the first thing that they do is to carry out the household chores. The first thing that they do is cleaning. They make sure that all the areas around the homes and inside the households are properly cleaned. They do the cooking, they feed children, they do the laundry work, and all the housework that is expected to be done in the homes. So, and this is the main task that domestic workers are tasked with around their homes. The second one is childcare. You find that domestic workers are tasked with the childcare, child rearing. They feed the children, they bath the children, they're expected to play with the children. So there's a lot of work around childcare and child rearing that is the preserve of domestic workers. Next to that is that they're expected to participate as you know, as people who can be able to do public relations in the home. We have a lot of visitors, we have guests, we have relatives, we have neighbors, we have gate personnel. The domestic worker is expected actually to relate with all these people and to relate in a way that she doesn't or he doesn't rub anybody the wrong way. So this also becomes a very key component of their work. Child formation and child development is another very key area that domestic workers are expected to contribute to. So here I'm looking at things like character formation. I'm looking at teaching children values, spiritual formation of children. In some households also they're expected to participate in the disciplining of children. So this is another very key area where domestic workers are expected not just to feed and clothe children and to play with them, but also to contribute in a very big way to child formation and development. At the same time, I understand from my own experience working alongside domestic workers and their employers that domestic workers do undertake appointments on behalf of their employers and on behalf of the households that they work for. I'm looking at representing parents in places like schools, going to hospitals, maybe to visit, to take children to hospitals and also to visit relatives and members of the households. Domestic workers sometimes accompany children to church, or even when children are going through church classes. They accompany children to the barber, to the salons. So they do carry out other activities that are not just internal, but these are external activities that are also very, very critical to the proper running of the households. Domestic workers also work around the compound. So sometimes in some households, they're expected to do the gardening, you know, small gardening in the kitchen garden. They take care of the flowers, the plants, weeding, watering of plants, cleaning the compound, you know, the driveways and all areas outside of the of the main house. This becomes one of their key components. The other one is the pets. So there are some households which have pets. So we have cats, we have dogs, and we have other pets. And domestic workers are also expected to know how to handle these pets. In addition to that, we have another area of shopping. So they are expected sometimes to go to the markets, to the supermarkets, to fetch groceries, go to any other place that they may be able to pick. They may have been sent to go and pick things outside of the household. Finally, domestic workers do home nursing. Home nursing involves taking care of the sick, patients, either at home or sometimes even at the hospitals. They're expected maybe to go and take care of household members who may need, you know, to be with somebody at the hospitals. And they need also a lot of preparation for this because it is kind of one of the new emerging areas, but also it is a very key component of their work. So in a nutshell, I think these are the roles that domestic workers are expected to carry out in our homes. But depending on the household, they could vary and they could change, they could increase, they could reduce. So, and sometimes it also depends on the context, the country, you know, the county or the region. But like, for example, the ones in the urban setups, there's a very high expectation that they actually function as home managers, you know, people who can oversee and undertake all the activities in a home so that this home can function successfully. This is with the understanding that many of the household owners in the urban are people who themselves work outside of the home. So because they do not work in the homes, it is expected that the domestic worker remains behind and ensures that they manage all aspects of the home. So their role is becoming increasingly big, and there is heavy reliance on the domestic workers, unlike traditionally when they were looked at as just people who wash and clean. So for now, they are decision makers. They are people who call shots in households. They are forming children. They are taking care of the spiritual formation. They take care of the sick. As you have seen, they undertake even PR work on behalf of the households. So a domestic worker is a very key person. So during this time of COVID, it is critical now that we really support our domestic workers, considering that their role is very, very key. It is very critical. To be honest, they are the frontliners when it comes to the households. They are the ones who are taking care of the sick, they are taking care of everybody else. And it is because of these domestic workers that everybody else gets to do something outside the home and to be successful at that. So it is important that we really take care of them and we appreciate them and we support them so that they can continue doing their work. They need proper support because they themselves have a lot of responsibilities outside of our households. You know, these are sisters, these are wives, these are, you know, mothers. They have children, sometimes even in high schools and at universities. So they do need financial support so that they can be able to, you know, to undertake their responsibilities as mothers and as people who are being depended upon by other, you know, other people outside there. So we really cannot afford to neglect our domestic workers. We cannot afford to lose them, and we really need to preserve them. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I think it's been a pleasure even to share those few points. Thank you.
Thank you, Edith. That was amazing. I think it was, you know, like very, very to the point with everything that we know domestic workers support us with. And I like that you mentioned about home managers, especially in urban centers. There are more home managers because they do so much more than what that domestic worker maybe in the village will be doing. In Nairobi, for instance, there's so much, you know, dynamics of how much the employer will actually be in that house and how much support they'll need per day. So, which brings us to the next panelist. Her name is Christine Ochengo. Christine is one of our employers. Edith had mentioned about how CDTD works. We have a placement program for workers. So domestic workers who are fully trained, well vetted, well trained, are usually placed into jobs within Nairobi and even across Kenya. So Christine happens to be one of our happy and, you know, satisfied employers from January. She's been with one of our domestic workers who's been trained by us for actually the whole of this year to now. And so Christine, I have about 5 questions that I'll go through with you so that I don't confuse you with so much information at the same point. So I'll start with the first one, then after you're done with it, I go to the second one. They're just about 5, just for us to understand you as an employer, your perspective of how domestic workers, knowing that you have one in your house, are affected right now by the COVID pandemic. So from your experience, Christine, karibu sana. From your experience, did you notice any behavioral changes from your home assistant or home manager that could probably have resulted from the onset of COVID-19? So, Christine, welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, as I've forgotten the name. She has said, I'm Christine. Before I answer the question, let me appreciate the work that CDT is doing. It's a noble work, and may God bless you so much. On the behavioral change, yes, there was change. Just as there was change to the country and even us, to everyone, because these ladies also are human beings, there was a lot of change. There was anxiety, uncertainty, and not knowing what tomorrow holds. So you could just see it from the way she can, when she's watching even the news, the way she's receiving it, and just the way she's presenting herself. Being a fact that I had taken her from January, she was still acclimatizing to the environment. Then there comes the onset of the COVID. So there was a change, yes.
Okay, thank you. The second question is about the same anyway, but do you feel this change affected the quality of her work in any way? And if yes, in what way? And how did this affect you and your family?
Yeah, it affected in a way for the first, let me say for the first 2 months, it affected her work. One, you see, sometimes when you're working and then you're very sure there is payment, there is some change, and then there is a way when you feel like I'm working and I'm not so sure if I'll be paid. You see, the jobs were closed, the boundaries, the borders are closed. Now this lady was like, for the first month, it really affected. Like, she could just sleep, and sometimes she's just seated thinking about maybe her family. Then I just decided to talk with her. We could share now. We could share one-on-one. Why do you think, maybe why are you feeling like the way you are feeling? Why are you behaving there? You are behaving then. She's like, now because the jobs have been closed, I don't even see you working from home, and I don't know if now there will be payment. You see, something like that. So when we talked, and it was like, no, you don't worry, we will work out the ways. Of course, I didn't promise her that I will pay you everything by the end of the month, but I told her we will work out. I will not leave you. We will work out on this, and let's just work. Let's just hope things will be better tomorrow. Let's just try and work out. Let's see by the end of the month what will be on our table together. So it affected the family. For the first month, it affected the family so much, to the point where sometimes maybe she came when I had a very small baby, to the point where even the love she had for the baby, when she was still catching up with the baby, it like reduced a bit. So when I talked to her, she started acclimatizing again, getting used to the babies, and by the second month she was coming back. The third month she was now back to her initial behavior.
That's wonderful. I think you are a wonderful employer, that you've observed so much, which now leads me to the next question, because we do know that, again, any employer who takes a domestic worker or a home assistant or manager from CDTD, it so happens that they have to be contracting. And the contract terms are that there has to be off days, as per stipulated by the labor laws in Kenya. So now, how have you been handling the issues of her days off, knowing that there's COVID? How are you protecting her, and how are you protecting yourself? Because with the off days means maybe she has to leave your house once per week, maybe. How have you been handling that?
We brought the issue on the table, we discussed, and being that she's coming from near the borders, I just told her, I want you to tell me what fits you so well, because I don't know, from the first month, because of the anxiety, she just told me, I want, yes, the offs are there, but I'll be just in my room. I just want to be in. I don't even want to go beyond the gate. She wanted to be in. So her off days, she's just in. And she just said, till I hear there is zero COVID is when I'll go out. And I said, if you're comfortable with that, that's okay.
And has that changed now that, well, we feel like maybe the curve is flattening a little bit? Has that changed?
That has not,
Sorry.
That has not changed yet, because she even told me, because I don't want to go outside, even in grocery, even to the market, I'll not be going. So all those things I'm doing while I leave work, I pass through the shops and I go with everything. She doesn't even want to pass through the gate.
But then how do you deal with, like now imagining being in the same space over and over and over? Do you feel like it could be a bit strenuous, stressing, not in a bad way, but just being in the same setup, not the fear of getting out? Do you think that is something, that can be sustainable, where she does that over and over for many months?
Yeah, not stressful as I can say, because
yeah, no, it's okay. Go on.
Yeah, to me, I think she's okay. Once in a while we talk like, you don't want to go outside, you feel you will get corona? Then I'm like, but we have masks. Why can't you? No, Mama, I don't want to go outside. You continue bringing groceries. Sometimes I even joke with her. Today we don't even have breakfast. Today you'll go and get bread. No, not yet. I will go. When the time will come, I will let you know that I want to go outside. So to me, I've not seen any change from them. She's just okay and she gets her rest.
Perfect. That's good. Thank you so much for that experience, and again, even for being in this Zoom meeting and willingly, as an employer, willing to come share. We are thankful. So thank you so much, Christine.
I'm requesting to leave because I have another meeting to catch.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have loved to be here, but kindly allow me to leave.
No worry. Thank you so much for your time. We definitely send you the recording, and hopefully you'll be in the next one next time.
Sure, bye.
Okay, bye. So the next panelist is going to be Miss Rose Olesi. Rose is one of ours. Again, we have programs for domestic workers within an institutional setting, and some of them we train from the communities they live in. So Rose comes from one of our community-based training centers for home care management. So she does like Mama Dobi kind of work, casual work, and we also place. Sorry, we also do those. Sorry. Are we together? Sorry. So Rose is one of our domestic workers who works part-time jobs, not living in somebody's house, but literally going for casual jobs. And since COVID started, there's been quite some issues getting jobs out there, some discrimination of sorts. So she's coming in to just share with us what she's been going through, just finding those casual jobs as a domestic worker in Nairobi. Rose, karibu sana. Hi Rose.
Asante.
Karibu sana.
Asante. Kwa majina ni Rose Olesi. Kwa majina ni Rose Olesi na nimeolewa na niko na watoto 4 na mimi ni kati wa wale domestic worker na nimefanya hiyo kazi kwa miaka 6 na mimi nashukuru hii kazi kivyangu. Hii kazi imenisaidia sana. Ni ile kazi naenda na ninarudi kwa nyumba kwa familia yangu, na imenisaidia upande wa watoto. Nimefanya hii kazi, nimesomesha watoto shule, wamemaliza form 4 watoto 3, waine ako form 3, na nimeifanya kwa miaka 6 na bado hata kwa saa hii bado naifanya. Naenda nafanya alafu narudi kwa nyumba.
Sasa hii wakati ya COVID, Rose, imekuwa aje kazi hii wakati ya COVID?
Wakati hii wa COVID kazi ili reduce. Kuna wenye nilikuwa naenda na wafanyia ninarudi, kuna wenye walinisimamisha wakaona pengine naweza pata hiyo ugonjwa niende huko affect, na kuna wenye nilibaki nao bado ninaenda. Lakini upande vile ugonjwa ilifika sasa, muajiri na muajiriwa tunaogopana. Pengine wewe unaenda unasema pengine penye naenda kufanyia mtu pengine naweza toa huko ugonjwa nikuje nayo kwa nyumba affect familia yangu. Na tena wenye wanakuajiri tena huku tena sisi wanatuogopa, wanaona pengine vile tunaenda huko tena tunarudi penye tunakaa tunaweza kuwa tumepata huko tuwapelekee. Sasa ilikuwa challenge kubwa sana, hata ilituaffect. Hata wakati ule walileta hizo rules wakapunguza masaa. Ili walipunguza masaa, saa zingine unafanya kazi unamwajiriwa naona ni kama hujafanya kazi vile inataka kwa sababu masaa imeenda, unaenda mapema. Anaona hata kulipa zile pesa zenye alikuwa nakulipa awali kama ugonjwa hii COVID-19 ijakuja. Sasa imekuwa challenge, imetuaffect kiakili, unapata pesa kidogo, kwa sababu hiyo masaa ifiki, saa zingine masaa inafika hujamaliza hiyo kazi, mwajiri ana complain, anakupea pesa kidogo.
Sasa Rose, ukisema masaa kawaida wa kabla COVID ulikuwa ukifanya masaa kama ngapi kwa siku? Alafu wakati wa COVID nini kimechange kwa masaa?
Saa zingine ulikuwa unaingia saa 3, pengine utoke saa 11. Sasa vile walichange masaa nilikuwa natoka before that. Sasa hiyo ndio ilitu affect sasa. Mwajiri anaona unatoka mapema na alikuwa amezoea ile masaa ulikuwa unatoka.
Sasa hiyo ilikuwa wakati ilianza, wakati inaitwa nini? Hii curfew ilianza ya saa 1. Hiyo wakati sasa hiyo tunasema.
Hiyo wakati sasa.
Sasa ukifikiria kimafikiria, you know, mental health. Umeona ni kama hii muhula, hii wakati this period ya COVID imekuweka stress, pesa imekuwa kidogo, ama ni mashida zingine zipi hiyo shida ya kazi imekuletea?
Sasa vile hiyo ugonjwa ilikuja, imestress sana. Kwa sababu sasa upate zile pesa za kutoshea vile ulikuwa unapata. Alafu saa zingine unaenda hiyo kazi, uko na hofu, unafikiria pengine penye naenda leo naweza pata hiyo ugonjwa. Sasa inakustress sana, ufanyi kazi ukiwa na roho ile safi. Unakuwa tu na wasiwasi, unafanya kazi ukiwa na wasiwasi.
Umepata clients wageni wapya wakati wa COVID? Kuna mtu amekuita mgeni kama imekuwa ngumu?
Hakuna mgeni nilipata.
Okay.
Hakuna mgeni nilipata, ni watu nilikuwa nafanyia wachache, ndio sasa waliendelea na mimi, wengine wakanisimamisha.
Okay. Asanti sana Rose. Asanti. Sasa the next panelist is our dear Jane, and our psychologist. She's a counselor with a lot of experience. And I also have just a few questions just to guide the conversation, about 5 of them that we'll explore together. So Jane, feel very free. I'll start with the first one. So the first one is considering the work environment for the domestic workers or home assistants, what impact could COVID-19 have on them psychologically? So
thank you so much, Phoebe.
Welcome.
I really want to start by appreciating our CEO, Edith, and the team, the great work you people are doing. Indeed, we thank God that you are touching the society. I would wish to request if you could allow me to do screen sharing, just to help me answer those questions very fast. Please allow me to do some screen sharing.
No worry, it's okay. The host will allow you.
It is said the host has disabled.
Okay, Carol is the host today. So Carol, could you kindly do that?
So thank you so much to our listeners as Carol enables the screen sharing. I really want to appreciate even this opportunity to be with us. Has she enabled? I'm just waiting for her to do so that I answer the first question.
Please confirm, Carol. Have you enabled her?
Can I do my screen sharing?
Irene or Carol, could you kindly respond? They happen to be in the office. I'm not in the office. I know they're able to.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Carol.
You can start sharing.
Thank you.
Phoebe, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, I'm now doing the screen sharing. Just a minute.
Okay.
I think they have done so. Thank you, Phoebe, for that question. I want to say, like what Christine and Rose have said, I think COVID-19 has had a great impact, especially on domestic workers. Like you note, most of the death, quite a number of domestic workers have lost their lives. Most of them currently are undergoing severe mental stress, which, if not managed, will lead to very serious depression. And like what Christine and Los, what they have said, some of the causes, I don't want to go into depth of them, it is actually because of the physical, the emotional, the sexual and the psychological abuse. Most of them have gone through during this time. Like what Christine has said, you realize most of them are going through a lot of low and delayed pay. You don't know when you'll be paid. You are not sure whether you will even work and get your pay, the poor working conditions, the anxiety of unpaid debts. You realize some of them had even loans. When they lost their jobs, they are not able to even fund their loans. The social isolation, I think one of them said, since COVID-19, they are now not even allowed to interact with the family members. The prolonged confinements, the stressful working conditions, those long open-ended hours, you don't know when to begin. You know, there is no structure that you are to begin at 8 and by 4 you are done. Some of our workers, like where I live currently, the estate, the other day I was just having a chat with some of the domestic workers, and they tell me if there's a season, they've been working for long hours. It is this time. Some of them, they're going there in clear terms of employment. You don't know whether tomorrow you have the job. The insufficient daily, weekly and annual rest. Some of them sleep very few hours. Before you sleep, probably somebody comes at 2. You are woken up. And because of all this, they go through a lot of psychological stress, a lot of psychological, you know, a lot of, some of them have even gone through depression. So those are some of the psychological impact Phoebe, our domestic workers are going through. Next question. Hello, Phoebe.
Hi, sorry. I'm in a noisy background, so I'm trying to mute.
Sorry. You know, you said you have some questions you want to ask.
Yes, I do. I was waiting for you to finish.
First one.
Okay, so the second one is, what are the signs that the employer needs to watch out for in a psychologically disturbed worker?
Beautiful, beautiful. Because of the situations and because of what our domestic workers are going through currently, some of the indicators of emotional and psychological instability among the workers, and which not only the employers, even us who are living with them when they come back, because like you said at the beginning, some of them, they work part-time. So in the evening, they are back in their homes. Some of these indicators are, you know, some of them go through unexplained extreme mood swings. In the morning, he or she is very high. After some hours, they don't want to talk to anyone. Then, of course, we have the withdrawal, the isolation from other people. Initially, they would mix. You know, initially, they would even come at the dining table. But then all of a sudden, you realize they now either want to eat from the kitchen or even from their bedroom. They start with withdrawing pole. And I think that's what, you know, Christine was confirming as she was talking about her domestic worker. Then the feelings of deep sadness. All of a sudden, you realize they don't want to talk. They're just sad. You ask them what is happening. They don't want to talk. Then you also notice a change in their sleep patterns. Either they are sleeping too much. At times they are not even sleeping. At times they want to wake up very early in the morning. You know, during the day, they just want to sleep. Then extreme anger burst. And this has, like most that have even been referred to us for counseling, they score very highly. Every time we do the assessment and we are testing them on the mental health, they score very highly on some of these, especially the extreme anger burst. They are easily provoked, something very small. At times they're just playing with the children. You know, a child just does something small and the slap that child will receive, even from the, or even the reply they will get. Self-harm. Some of them you even start to notice some suicidal thoughts, some, you know, some negative self-talk, showing some unworthiness, like they are giving up in life, like they don't see hope, you know, that helplessness, etc. Some even turn to compulsive behaviors right in your house. You note some of them even abusing drugs or even alcohol. Then you also notice all of a sudden their eating habit has changed. They have either started eating too much, something you have not seen, or probably they're not even really eating, or they're just eating very little. And you wonder, this is not the person that I knew. Then all of a sudden, they lose interest in activities they once enjoyed doing. Then, like if you listen to their talks, especially those that now start going down on depression, they'll start talking about how at night they had people talking to them, seeing things other people are not seeing, hearing things some other people are not hearing, some overwhelming worry, like with my children go back to school, you know, like what Rose was saying, some of them have overwhelming worry, anxiety about tomorrow. Will I still have the job and all that? And I think as workers and as people who are living with these domestic workers, we need to be on lookout on some of these indicators so that we can be able to do the interventions early enough. Thank you, Phoebe.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much, Jane. That was very comprehensive and very
Any other question?
Yes, there is one more. So
yes.
Because at least in your expounding, you've already like done two more questions, which is good. Now, what role can an employers or an employer play to ensure that now mentally, beyond like offering psychosocial support, what can employers also do to make sure that this domestic worker also feels at home, settled, going through the season together, because everybody is anxious, but they need support in the home setup? What would you advise employers to do?
Phoebe, if there is any support our domestic workers need, and I think it is now, like you have said, we need to provide access to psychological support for our domestic workers. If they are to work effectively, they need to access the psychological and mental wellness. Of course, you realize these services have become very expensive with time, and that's why we would wish, or we would request, if once in a while our domestic workers can be supported, even to attend a session or two, where somebody can help them access, you know, where they are coming from, their psychological status. That would do them very well. And then we need to help them strengthen their coping mechanism against the unfair working conditions. At times, the conditions may not change, but you realize if we help strengthen their coping mechanism, where they can develop positive, you know, coping mechanism, it will be very good for them. Then, like what you people are doing, and I love the work you are doing, we need to keep on advocating for safe environment that is free from any physical or sexual abuse. Then we advocate for healthy working environment. The workers, you know, the employers, please provide the PPEs, for the domestic workers. Most of them are involved in cleaning some of these services, and at this season, they need, those gloves, they need those plastic, just those basic gloves which they can use, the face masks, etc. And then let's not discriminate against them. And if we can, and maybe this one, I don't know how Phoebe it would get even to the government of Kenya, or even to the workers' organization. I think we should be able to support more safe shelters for domestic workers, especially the victims of domestic violence. That would really help a lot. And then they need to be regarded with high levels of dignity and respect. Like what our CEO said, these are people who are playing a major role. You can imagine someone you are leaving your greatest treasure, your children with. You need to regard them with high levels of dignity and respect. Let's make them feel wanted wherever they are. And then, of course, if we can, and I'm sure this is possible, the Organization for Domestic Workers, let's help them acquire even those the entrepreneur skills, and even some little capital to create alternative income options. When you listen to somebody like Rose speaking, you just wish this woman had some, some skills, some little capital, so that when she goes to look for this job and she doesn't get, she can go back home and maybe even cook some mandazis, or even just set up like a small business, the sukuma, and at the end of the day, she has something to feed her children. Then of course, we need to train our domestic workers, those financial management training, especially in there, to help them actualize their visions of self-employment, savings in the future. If we did this, I'm sure, Phoebe, we will be able to help them. If you look at that's just something to finish up. This is actually what is happening to most of our domestic workers. Even when they feel like they are on the right footing, where they think they can get support, you can see what is happening. Someone just slaps them, issues come like what is happening with COVID-19, and our workers are down. So I'm sure we can do a lot, Phoebe, even to support them psychologically and mentally for effective working by our domestic workers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jane. That was so informative, comprehensive. I'm so thankful that you're thinking about the importance of advocacy, advocating for their dignity, for their rights, for, again, dignity to work in the decent, kind of conditions. That is amazing, which now makes me think through the next panelist. Thank you so much, Dr. Jane.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Thank you so much. And I like that what you've said now introduces us to KUDHEIHA, the Kenya Union of Domestic, Hotels, Educational Institutions, Hospitals, and Allied Workers, because they are the union that supports domestic workers and other hospitality sector kind of workers. And I believe that Ruth just heard what you said, and it is really what rings very close to their hearts and what they do for domestic workers. So I'll give her the platform to introduce herself, and then I have just a few questions for you, Ruth, because I want to imagine that eventually, I actually don't have a lot of questions for you. I just want to know what kind of support KUDHEIHA offers domestic workers during this pandemic, period, and anything you can share with us about, again, the domestic worker sector and what KUDHEIHA is doing about it. And again, even during the COVID season, how much, you're doing. If there's an initiative you can tell us about, we'll really gladly, listen to that and try to connect them to you. So Ruth, welcome.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. Let me first appreciate
we can't hear you. Kindly unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we still can't hear you clearly. Sorry, you're not clear. Even now. You're distant, very distant.
Okay, I can earphone.
Saizi mnanisikia?
Kabisa, vizuri tena.
Aya, sawa, asante.
Thank you, welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to appreciate CDTD for this opportunity to have KUDHEIHA participate in this discussion. And for purposes of language, I understand we also have domestic workers who have joined us. I'll want to speak in Kiswahili, ndo tuweze kuelewana vizuri. And I also want to recognize Vicky Kanyoka, who has joined us in this conversation. She's actually coordinator for Africa region in International Domestic Workers Federation. So later on, I'll be mentioning the support that we've got from them as far as our activities during COVID season is concerned. So KUDHEIHA ni chama kinachowakilisha wafanyikazi wa manyumba. And we have offices in almost all counties in Kenya. And part of our work involves organizing domestic workers, kuleta wafanyikazi wa nyumba pamoja. You realize that hii ni sector ambayo iko very scattered, and it's very hard to mobilize domestic workers because of how they spread and vile wanafanya kazi kwa nyumba za employers na ni matajiri tofauti katika mahali wanaishi tofauti. So part of our work involves representing domestic workers even in court when their rights at work are violated. And championing for their protection as far as their labor matters is concerned. So during COVID, we realized that it was something that hatukukuwa tunatarajia na ilitupata off guard. And actually, we are one of the sector that was hit by COVID in itself, because we realized even as other workers are affected by COVID, it trickles down to domestic workers because the same workers are employers of domestic workers. So, and part of the support that we've been giving to domestic workers, kumbuka tukiwaleta pamoja, tunawaleta pamoja pia kuwafunza, kuhakikisha masilahi yao pia imekuwa considered. And during COVID, we realized that we had so many domestic workers that were laid off because employers were not able to pay their salaries, considering the fact that most of them were on unpaid leave, some are on cut salaries. So they were not able to take care of domestic workers. So, and them being part of our membership, we recorded so many cases of how they were affected by COVID. And part of the issues that they raised during that, it's failure to be given salaries. Their salaries were also cut. They were also sent on unpaid leave. Then the arrangement changed for those who were taken in as live-in, because employers were now fully available in the households. Some were even forced to go home, meaning there was a loss in their jobs. And so many issues around there, also protection at work as far as provision of PPEs are also given by employers. And we, as a union that organizes domestic workers and advocates for their safety and rights to be considered at workplaces, we rolled out a program. Remember, as a trade union, we are affiliated to International Domestic Workers Federation, a global initiative that brings in domestic workers organizations together in all countries in the world. So Kudeha is also affiliated to International Domestic Workers Federation. They supported us to come in and address some problems of domestic workers. And we were able to roll out a food drive campaign is also part of organizing the sector, because for those who lost jobs and they were in our membership, they lacked food. They were not able to take care of their families. For those whose salaries were slashed, remember we even have, talking about the broader violence for domestic workers, we even have some women whose husbands separated from them because of the pressures of submitting to the family as far as food is concerned. So we had those women coming forth to us and asking us for support with food. IDWF came through and supported us to give out food to domestic workers, especially those that were hardly hit by effects of COVID. And besides now the food campaign that we did, part of it was also to offer personal protective equipment to domestic workers. We supplied masks to them, and with masks now we just did random distribution to our members, and we also have those who sit at the estates and wait. We gave them masks, we provided sanitizers to them as a way of also protecting them from risks of exposure. Because even realize, even as they go about their work, you'll still find them seated up in their estate waiting for jobs that are not there, because remember what Daktari presented, even employers are scared to hire these ones who are seated hapo nje kwa sababu they don't know where they're coming from. So they're not sure whether they've tested or not. So it's even been so hard for them to access those jobs because of fear of spreading the virus and to also employers' places. Now, besides the food campaign that we've been having, and it's actually going on, something else that also came in that was very interesting was also the issue of violence that they were facing, especially from immediate family members, because of struggles to exist in these very hard times, and also protection at workspaces. We've had even employers who've been forced, especially looking at the bracket of domestic workers, majority fall in the not in the youth, but after the youth age bracket. So majority of those old women, because they were, you remember even the protocols that we had on the vulnerable in terms of ages, we even had those women being sent away from work. And those are now some of the cases that were reported to us, and some employers could not even consider the issues of their terminal benefits. You find that a woman has worked for up to 20 years and they have to go home with nothing. You know, no appreciation, no terminal benefits. They were not, their NSSF saving was not remitted, and she just has to go home with nothing. So actually, as Kudeha now, that is when we could come through and bring in employers on board and negotiate on how this worker can be given their terminal benefits, so that even as they go home, we are talking about empowering them economically. They go and get something to do back in the village. Because for those who are old, their last resort was, we have the lockdown lifted for us to go back to the villages, because life in Nairobi was very hard for them. And now again, some issues that we were really looking into is on issues of, for those that employers are not able to host them and they want them to go away, then we negotiate with them on the unpaid leave instead of termination. The domestic sector work is very challenging in terms of retaining a worker. It's a sector that people always will get a replacement as quick as yesterday. Yeah. So if you're told to go, you're not sure whether you'll be taken back when you come back. So part of our negotiation was to allow them even go, so that they can be accommodated once they are the employers get back to the employment, or things get back to normal and they can get income to sustain the worker. And also issues of trying to also reduce the number of job loss by, again, bringing employers on board to negotiate with them on how these domestic workers can be protected and have their jobs with them instead of just sending them back home. And actually, those are now among the things that we do as a union, just to ensure that this worker is protected at work and also at home, because there are so many dynamics in the sector, ranging from that worker, you know, they have their own challenges with the family and again at the workspaces. Then something else that we've also been doing with borders closed, besides the local domestic workers, we also have migrant domestic workers, particularly those who go to Middle East. And during the COVID period, we've received so many distress calls. And remember, our borders are closed. They cannot come back home. They are in distress. You remember the recent Lebanon issue, the blast and the plight of migrant workers who are working there. And besides Lebanon, we have Saudi Arabia, we have Dubai, we have Qatar, we have Jordan, Iraq. So most of these ladies, they've been calling us to ask for assistance, because in one way they have a lot of challenges and they are not able to come back home, but they will need our intervention. So I just mentioned the International Domestic Workers Federation that has offices in Middle East region, and we work very closely with them in also trying to assist these women that are stranded from the other end and they want our support to come back home. The food drive is something that has really given us an oversight, especially in even understanding the real issues that domestic workers go through, ranging from low salaries, low salaries, and they find that it's a big deal because it really supports them right from their homes. So that is part of what we've been doing, Phoebe, unless there's any other question, because I have also something else to mention about the campaigns that we also do as a Kudeha.
Okay, no problem. Please go ahead.
Yes, and I just saw someone also mentioned about Convention 189 and Convention 190. So besides mobilizing domestic workers to come together and join us, we have a toll-free line. And that toll-free line is out there for workers to call us when they have any issues, and particularly domestic workers. And it is a free, we don't incur any cost when you're calling us. Part of our campaign has been to push the government to ratify Convention 189. That is a big deal for domestic workers. We know up to 2017, we had over 2 million domestic workers in the country. And we've had so many, gaps in terms of implementation of laws to protect domestic workers. And we've been pushing the government to ratify the convention. During COVID, our observation was that the recognition of domestic workers was not something that was visible in terms of support, in terms of even addressing issues that domestic workers go through, considering that they are working in confines of people's homes. So we thought this was an opportunity to even think further about really collaborating with institutions that really want to support domestic workers and push for the government to recognize domestic workers by ratifying the convention. The convention is a big deal because it recognizes that Rose as a worker and not a casual, or rather a helper. Yeah. So it is a campaign that we've been doing as Kudeha. Convention 190, right now we know so many violences that are happening at workplaces, and no one can know if that domestic worker will not want to talk about it. Yeah. So, and these are now conventions that we really want them to be ratified, and it takes all of us to work together. I appreciate that we have employers here with us and domestic workers, and it is a good opportunity to now bring all the synergies together and recognize domestic workers by really pushing for the government to recognize domestic workers. As Kudeha, we do convene meetings with stakeholders who will hold our hands to push the government again to ratify. And I believe we have employers here. When we call on you, please join us so that you understand what the real issues that convention provides for, that will really help us recognize domestic workers and have them also feel like they are people and they are women who are working and they are recognized. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. That was quite comprehensive. But before you go, we would like to know the toll-free number. If you could just share it here.
Okay. Okay, the toll-free number is 0800 722 832. I just typed it in the chat, and you can avail that to everyone. And what we really need right now, even with COVID and what just came when no one was expecting, is to mobilize domestic workers and have numbers. It's very challenging to reach out to all domestic workers. We know they are locked in homes. Some estates are inaccessible. Others don't know what is happening out there. They feel like laws are not meant for them. Laws are meant for people in informal jobs. So we actually always want to mobilize even more. And I think with this opportunity, again, we can work together to organize domestic workers, refer them to us. Our offices, we have offices everywhere in this country, in all counties actually. Our Nairobi office is based at Sonalax House. I can share my personal contact so that anyone who wants to come and join us, they can call me, and then we come to even where they are. We have leaders in different areas that are tasked with organizing. So we can as well you can link with us so that we introduce you to our leaders so that we organize together. I'm very sure when we have the numbers and we really want to push for our agenda, then the numbers will win. And we will be heard as women who are very important in the society. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Ruth. I'm sure we'll be in touch with you, especially our lady Eileen. She's the one in charge of the Domestic Workers Transformation Project. And she has already, we've already started self-organizing within CDTD. So it means a lot to us that, we can also have, support, now that you're also present in all the counties of Kenya. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and for coming today. Thank you so much. Now, the next session is for question and answers. Any questions you have for anyone, the floor is open. And maybe before we start, at least I've already gotten one question from Mora. She'd like to know more about Rose Olesi. She'd like to know how much Rose used to make before the COVID season and how much she's making now in terms of, I know Mama Dobi will always charge per day or per hours or per work. She'd like to just understand the difference between what you made before, Rose, and what you're making now. And she'd also like to know where you live, and beyond that, which estates you usually offer your services. So Rose, the floor is open for you, and anybody else with a question after Rose, you can ask. Thank you.
Mimi ni wa kwenda na kurudi.
Wewe ni wa kwenda na kurudi? Sasa huyu anauliza, wakati kabla COVID ulikuwa unalipwa pesa kama ngapi ukibagain mkisikizana kisiku?
Kisiku?
Ile wakati labda kibarua umejua leo naenda kuoshea huyu nguo ama kufanya kazi na hii tutasikizana this much. Unaweza sema labda ile ilikuwa average ya ile pesa mlikuwa mkisikizana mara mingi?
Ilikuwa per day unalipwa 600 ama 700.
Okay, wakati wa COVID.
Wakati wa COVID wanakulipa 500
kwa siku mzima.
Kwa siku mzima.
Okay, alafu huyu angependa kujua unakaa wapi?
Mimi ni mkaaji wa Mkurunyayo.
Okay, kwenye unaendanga kazi sana sana kutoka Mkurunyayo ni wapi?
Mimi naenda, kuna estate hapo inaitwa Executive Villa.
Uko ni South C ama South B?
South B.
Okay.
Iko nyuma ya Diamond.
Sana sana huko ndiko unaenda.
Balozi.
Bado huko ni South B.
Na Nairobi West.
Okay. Mmoja alikuwa akiuliza, najua sasa amepata the answers. Asante.
Haya, nimeshukuru.
Okay. Swali lolote, any question, any feedback? Juu tumekuja kufunga sasa. Tuko karibu kufunga. Okay. Any comment again from Irene now? The owner of the program.
Mimi kitu yenye nilikuwa nataka kuongea tu. Nilikuwa tu nasema kama domestic workers tunaweza ungana, na vile Dr. Nani ametuambia hapo kuna pahali naweza saidia domestic workers. Tuungane, tuingie kwa hiyo ili hao watu wakituviolate tujue vile tunaweza saidiwa, kwa sababu wengine wanaumia. Mimi kuna wengine nilienda Jokimu iko tu hapo South B. Mwajiriwa akaniambia ati nisiende choo yake. Nikashindwa, mtu utafanya aje kazi na uendi choo? Na tumbo ikikushika hiyo kazi hata sikufanya. Niliachana nayo.
Alikuwa anasema usiende choo kwa nini?
Kama wanaweza
Kwa nini alikuwa anasema usiende choo?
Sasa anaona ni kama anaona wewe huwezi enda choo kwa nyumba yake, anakuona wewe sio
hujatosha boga.
Utoshani nao, yani anakudharau. Anaona wewe pengine wewe ni mtu wa chini, yeye ako juu. Sasa hiyo violation ndio mbaya. Mtu akuchukue tu, hata wewe uko tu binadamu kama yeye, msaidiane, kwa sababu wewe unamsaidia na yeye anakusaidia.
Kweli. Okay. Mtu yoyote ako na comment, feedback, question? Naona Techno S65, sijui ni nani, lakini fungua tu nini microphone ucomment. Unmute. Unmute ndio tukusikie.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello Phoebe.
Hello, nakusikia.
Unanisikia? Okay. Ni kwa majina naitwa Lilian Juma. Hapo Lilian Achieng' ama Mama Mary. Mimi natoka huku sehemu za Mukuru kwa Ruben. Embakasi area. Na swali yangu, tuseme wakati for example nimeenda kazi na nikapatikana na accident huko, pengine nimeanguka mguu ikavunjika ama kuna vile nimeumia, siwezi fanya kazi tena.
Kwa nyumba ya
nyumba ya mtu huyo namfanyia kazi sasa, huyo bosi wangu. Sasa nikiumia kwake, anafaa nitibu ama naweza fanyaje? Ndio ili nipate kupona.
Hiyo tutauliza Ruba tuambie.
Asante sana.
Ukianguka kwa posti.
Hello, Phoebe.
Yes, Ruba.
Ebu ni clarify tafadhali.
Anasema what if ukiwa a domestic worker ujipate umepata accident kwa nyumba ya mwenye unafanyia kazi, nani atagharamia hiyo accident?
Kuna kitu inaitwa kwa sheria za labor, kipengele kimoja cha labor ni ya occupational safety and health. Na unapata kuwa ni kwa sababu wafanyikazi wa nyumba hawaelewi kwamba ukikuwa kazini na upate accident kama uko kazi ni gharama kwa tajiri, kwa sababu uko kazi. Ukikuwa kwa ukiingia kazi asubuhi, tuseme kama wewe hauishi unaingia asubuhi unatoka jioni, kama ulikuwa unaenda kazi huwa inaangaliwa kwa kama ulikuwa unatoka asubuhi unaenda kazi na ukapata ajali, na kama ulikuwa uko kazini ukatumwa labda sokoni ukapata ajali na ukarudi kazi, as long as umedhibitisha kwa wakati ulipata hiyo accident ilikupata kama uko kwa kazi, ni jukumu la tajiri. Kwa mara mingi kuna form yenye mtu anaenda kuchukua kwa ofisi za labor. Na nimepeana namba yangu sasa, kwa yeyote atataka maelezo zaidi anaweza nipigia niweze kumwelimisha, lakini kuna muda pia unafaa kuripoti immediately kwa ofisi za labor. Kuna form utajaza ndo pia wadhibitishe kuwa hiyo accident au kutoka nayo mahali, wakifanya investigation ionekane ni ilipatikana kama uko kazini. Kama tuseme ulikuwa unapanda juu kwa stairs ukaanguka chini ya nyumba, hiyo ilionekana ni hapo kwa nyumba, si ndio? Kuna ile yenye mfanyikazi anaweza toka nayo nje akuje aseme imempata kwa kazi, si ndio? So kama wakati unajaza hiyo form na huwa wanafanya investigation wadhibitishe hiyo accident ilipatikana kwa nyumba, inakuwa ni jukumu la tajiri kugharamia hiyo hasara. Kuna pia kitu inaitwa work injury benefits, ile yenye unaweza kuwa pia ulipata ajali yenye haitakuruhusu kuendelea na kazi. Kwa bahati mbaya uanguke na ukue ulemae, huwezi endelea na kazi. Pia hizo ni baadhi za mambo ambayo yanahusiana na usalama wako kama mfanyikazi kazini. Lakini kabla wadhibitisho, ukumbuke kwanza lazima wafanye investigation. Ni kubwa sana na inataka mafunzo polepole. So sisi huwa tuko na mafunzo kila mwezi. Kwa sababu ya COVID tujaweza kukutana na wafanyikazi kuwafunza, lakini kama unataka mafunzo kuhusu mambo yoyote inahusiana na usalama wako kazini, unaweza piga namba yangu nikwambie siku tuko na mafunzo ukuje usikie. Kusikia tu itakusaidia.
Sawa.
Na uweze pia kuelimisha wengine.
Asanti. Achieng, umepata jibu? Achieng, I hope umepata jibu vizuri. Hello Achieng. Lilian, umesaidika? Wacha tuamini amesaidika, na pia namba yako tutampatia kama anataka kufuatilia vizuri. Anybody else, swali lolote, comment yoyote? Tuko na about 10 or 15 minutes.
Hello Phoebe.
Hi Aileen.
Yes. Sasa ulikuwa umeniambia nizungumze lakini sikuwa tayari sana. Yes. So mimi yangu ni kushukuru kila mmoja ambaye amejitokeza katika hii forum kufanya majadiliano ambayo tumefanya. My special thanks zitaenda kwa domestic workers wote ambao wamejitolea kusikiliza, kwa sababu ni kwa manufaa yetu wote, na pia kwa wote ambao wametuzungumzia, Ruth, Christine na pia Dr. Jane. Tunawashukuru sana kwa kuitikia kuja kwa hii platform kuzungumza nasi na kuzungumza na domestic workers. Na domestic workers ambayo mko hapa, tafadhali ni ombi langu ya kwamba mtafikishia wengine ujumbe, na ni ombi langu ya kwamba next time tutaungana tukiwa wengi. Alafu kama vile umesikia mambo kitajwa hapa hivi ya ILO C189 and C190, ni sheria ambazo zinatuhusu domestic workers, na ni sheria ambazo serikali ikiweza kupitiza basi itaturahisishia kazi na itakata malalamishi mingi ama shida mingi ambayo domestic workers huwa wanapitia. So kumbuka, ni jukumu lako, ni jukumu langu. Ni vizuri kama tutajiunga na union, ni vizuri tukijiunga kuendelea kufanya masomo pia na CDTD. Alafu tutakapojiunga kama kitu kimoja, basi kama vile Ruth amesema numbers matter. Tukiweza kusukuma hiyo agenda pamoja, basi tutaweza kusikika. Tuwezi tukachoka, najua imekuwa ni muda tukisukuma, lakini tuwezi tukachoka, tuwezi wakata tamaa hadi ile siku ambayo tutaweza kusikika. Kumbuka huwa tunasema kama mimi si domestic worker, basi labda niko na jirani ambaye ni domestic worker, ama ni mtoto wangu, ama ni jamaa wangu, ama mimi mwenyewe naishi na domestic worker. Kwa hivyo mambo ya domestic work inatuhusu sisi wote. Hakuna mtu ambaye atajitenga sema yako kando. Ina affect mwajiri, ina affect mwajiriwa, na ina affect familia, na hata kwa jumla ina affect taifa. Kama vile Madam Iti alisema, domestic workers tunashikilia uchumi wa taifa. Ni sisi ndio nguvu ambao tunasukuma hawa wafanyikazi wengine. Ni kujitolea kwetu na kujituma kwetu pale nyumbani kutekeleza majukumu yetu, ndio tampa pia mwajiri huyu mwingine motisha atoke kwenda shughuli zake. Na ikiwa tutalegea, basi uchumi pia utalegea. Ndio sababu tunafaa sisi wote tuchukuliwe na sheria pia itulinde kama wafanyikazi wale wengine. So ni jukumu letu, tushikane sisi wote, union, domestic workers na other stakeholders. Waajiriwa, msibaki nyuma, hii ligi pia ni yenu. So asante sana for everybody for coming on board. Nashukuru. Thank you, Phoebe.
Thank you so much. So I'm taking it that sisi wote tumepata our chance. Mwenye kuongea ameongea. If you have any other question, please confirm now. I want to invite Pierina. I always like her prayers. I don't know whether she's in. Yes, she's in. Atuombe tufunge. But before that, I'm also thankful on behalf of CDTD for your time. Warembo wetu, plus everybody who was part of this Zoom. We are so thankful. I think because of working with most of you, especially when you wako hubs, watu wa Mukuru, CDTD tuko na hubs 10 across Nairobi, especially in Mukuru ni 2, Nyayo na Njenga, tuko Githurai, tuko Kawangware mahali 2, tuko Kangemi, tuko ni wapi kwingine Irene?
Tuko Phoebe.
Yes? Kibera, exactly.
Tuko Dandora. Mukuru kwa Nyayo, kwa Ruben.
Kangemi.
Kangemi na Waroko. Na Githurai 45.
Exactly. So as time goes on, najua juu ya COVID hatuna training on the ground kwa community, but tutaendeleza. So hata mwenye yako hapa domestic worker, ongea na rafiki zako, waambie kuna training, waambie kuna kama kuzeiha, you know, kuna watu wa kuwafaitia, kutufaitia rights zetu. But in the meantime, tutakuwa na zingine kama hizi, tutaendelea kuongea, make sure that we work together. The journey is for all of us together. So, and I come to the end of today's Zoom session. Thank you so much again. Nita invite Pierina tuombe maombi ya mwisho. Pierina.
Asante Phoebe. Let us pray. Tunaomba Baba, katika jina la Yesu, tunasema ni asante kwa wema wako, hata kwa kutuunganisha siku hii ya leo, jinsi hii tukaweza kuzungumziana Bwana, kupeana na kupata mawaidha na hata kupokea mwongozo kutoka kwa viongozi wa hii kazi, Bi Edith Morogo na wale wageni maarufu ambao umetuletea siku ya leo. Asante Bwana kwa hawa wafanyikazi wetu wote wapendwa ambapo wako kwa hii forum, hata waajiri, na asante kwa hayo maongezi ambayo tumekuwa nayo siku ya leo. Tunasema asante, tunasema shukran na utukufu kwako kwa sababu ulipangilia siku kama hii, hata hii kongamano lianze, na tunaamini uko na uwezo wa kuliendeleza, watu wengi wakaweze kunufaika, wafanyi kazi, waajiri na hata wale ambao wanapokea hizi huduma ambazo hawa wafanyi kazi wanapeana. Tunasema ni asante, umekuwa mwaminifu. Hata kwa ile kazi CDTD inafanya, umeendelea kuimarisha Bwana, hata kupata kikao kama hiki, tunaona imegharimu mkono wako na tunasema ni asante. Kwa hivyo Bwana, asante kwa siku hii ya leo. Asante kwa kila moja ambaye alifika. Tunatarajia na tunakutazamia ukatuwezeshe tuungane siku ingine na tuwe tia bidii na pata kufanya progress kwa hiyo mambo yote ambayo tumeshiriki siku hii ya leo Bwana, na tutakuwa na matunda na report mzuri hata hiyo siku ingine ambayo tutakutana. Pokea sifa na utukufu, katulinde, kalinde zile kazi tunazosifanya, na wacha jina lako takatifu likaendelee kutukuka. Katika jina la Yesu Kristo tunaomba na kuamini. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Amen. So asanteni sana. Have a lovely evening. We'll be in touch soon. Bye now.
Ndiyo.